Hello, everybody. Better late than never. Thank you so much for spending your evening with the Seattle Overload podcast, where we have a bumper film review. We have trade for a linebacker talk, which has actually happened. It's not theorizing, it is the actual. So that's fantastic. We have laggy Griffin, so we'll see how that goes, but hopefully good. And we have me on Double Espresso about to make a tweet. Very exciting stuff. Griff, do you have a preamble topic?
Matty, would you still love me if I was a worm?
That's so funny. That's actually so funny. I was thinking about this. Like, literally was saying today. Isn't it weird how worms just like eat dead things? Like, they straight up are gonna, if you choose to be buried after you die, which, you know, it does come calling. It will happen to all of us at one point. But
Yeah,
all likelihood, it's a worm that if a worm's
it's or a
eat
maggot.
you. Yeah, I mean, don't get me
Well,
wrong. You decompose. You're not really you anymore, are you?
Sure,
They're just putting you
that's
back
getting
in
very
there.
very philosophical. Cold into the earth, our atoms replenish the future generations. But hold on a second. Everybody that consumes animals eats something that is dead. You don't eat something that's alive because once you eat it, it becomes dead.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that? Like worms will eat anything. If you put a bunch of like chicken around, like cooked chicken around a worm, they'll eat the chicken.
Will they?
Yeah, if it's available to them.
No, I don't think so. I think
You don't think
worms.
so?
No, that's like worms are like massive like carnivores. No, I think worms need to. Then there's got to be a certain. This is so stupid. There's someone in the chat who knows about worms. They're like a worm expert,
Yeah,
a worm spurt, and they're
we've
straight
got
up.
quite the spread in our audience of
We
like
do.
subfield experts. Yeah,
Yeah, and they are like beyond face palming right now. They're
right.
probably clicking off. They're probably canceling our
Hmm.
show. But yeah, I'd imagine you have to be like a certain state of rotten for a worm to be like, yeah, I'll get
To
up in there.
because okay, because
That's my dick.
are you suggesting they don't have the enzymes to break down more fresh flesh, perhaps? Um, Interesting. On that note, what do you think Worm's favorite types of films are? Like, for instance, like post-apocalyptic, like set in Britain type films. Do you think they go for that? Starring, say, Clive Owen and Julianne Moore.
Huh. You know what? I hadn't I haven't heard of that one. I don't think.
Chiwetel Ejiofor goes on.
Yeah. Okay.
Tapeworms, that's good. From the snail, no less. That's apropos.
Oh, I had a really bad like messed up dream, but I need to tell you about it off air because I don't think I'm comfortable sharing it with the group. But it's
You don't
bad.
want to be. It's not group therapy or after.
No.
It's one-on-one therapy. Okay.
But like, if I was on The Sopranos, the nice therapist, she'd be telling me like some pretty messed up stuff. I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, it's all about growth.
True.
Um,
True. And I processed it well. Like, I'm handling it fine. So
good,
that's
good,
good.
great,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, dreams are interesting. Sometimes I dream about movies I've seen. For like one example is like
Right.
a movie starring Clive Owen and Chiwetel Ejiofor and Julianne Moore.
Uh huh.
Hmm. Sometimes I dream about asking my friend Matty if he'd still love me if I was a worm, then him answering the question, and him asking me if I'd still love him if he was a worm. Sometimes he
Oh, sorry, I never answered that question.
sometimes he reciprocates the prompt, um, and doesn't go off into another topic.
So
But hey,
on the subject, actually,
only a dream.
I went to a Van Gogh exhibition today, and there was lots of pictures of men, but none of
Okay,
children.
Matty, Van Gogh,
Yeah.
Van Gogh.
Oh, Van Gogh. Well,
Do you
Van
guys
Gogh,
say Van
fuck
Gogh?
yourself.
Oh wow. Okay, we're demonetized already. Do you guys say Van Gogh? Is that how the Dutch say it?
I think the Dutch might go with a Van Gogh.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Van Gogh was Dutch, right?
Yes.
Mm. Mm. How was that exhibit? I know you've been to one before.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Yeah, much better than the other one because it was the actual paintings. You see.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah, but he was a disturbed guy, right?
Yeah, but you know,
You know what's messed up? Like I read the only reason I found out about this exhibition is because I read a good article on how basically, he wasn't popular, and his sister-in-law,
right?
I believe it was, spent ages trying to get his work popular and sell
Right.
it, and then she moved the grave of his brother to be next to Vincent, like after this guy had been dead for quite a long time, and it was seen as like kind of a marketing ploy. And then the current like Van Gogh Goth descendants, they don't make any money out of his work, like because it's all been sold to different galleries.
Like the pub, yeah, like in the public record, not, or it's probably just owned by private entities, like you said. It makes
Right.
you wonder how many other Van Goghs went undiscovered throughout
Yeah, and
history.
I was looking at one today, and I'm like, I think this one's fake. Like it's too obvious.
You think
Like it's
so?
got big red Vincent, like he's autographed that one or signed it.
Hmm.
I don't know the art term.
Hmm.
What's the art term when you sign your work? Signature.
Autographed,
Yeah, I will go with autograph.
signatured, signed, perhaps.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that one was fake. So
Are you like a big art guy now?
massive art guy.
Cool,
But
cool. No, that's great.
isn't art everywhere.
There are cathedrals everywhere for those with the eyes to see them. Quoted a not great philosopher. Um,
Do you think Jared Go is going to win MVP?
um, that was good. That was good.
Thanks.
I
Right, should
tried to
we?
match it, but I had nothing. So that was. I'll just
No, no.
I'll just tip the cat. That was
Yeah,
good.
that's right. That's
Hit
right.
it.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griffin and I are reviewing the tape from the Seahawks 34-14 victory at the Atlanta Falcons. Loads of good stuff, some bad stuff. I think we have concerns that remain, and we will be pretty even as we talk through the tape. We also have some just really fun Ken Walker things to look at, which cannot wait to do that. But first, even more exciting, the Seahawks made a trade. We were not feeling good about the linebacker position throughout the offseason. We were afraid. I think some of those fears were proven valid and well placed. And Seattle's upgraded their linebacker position, moving off-season signing Jerome Baker, who I think we had higher hopes for, along with a 2025 fourth-round pick. For Tennessee Titans linebacker Ernest Jones, the Titans run the same defensive scheme as Mike McDonald. They've got Denard Wilson calling the plays there. They lead the NFL in yards per game allowed, which is a very basic metric, but if you go advanced with it, they're also like the top defense in the NFL. So something's going well. We've seen the importance of linebackers when Mike McDonald acquired Roquan Smith, added him to Patrick Queen, and how that transformed the defense when they're in Baltimore. And so for Seattle to upgrade Jones, say they're going to play a middle linebacker, could this be, Griff, an acquisition like putting Roquan Smith in Baltimore? And is it going to suddenly transform this defense into being very good at times to struggling at times to actually being like, top 10, top 5? Like, is this massively impactful?
It is cool that it mirrors the 2022 Ravens arc of rostering, struggling, making a big trade, and then for the Ravens improving. So yeah, we should be excited about this trade. Ernest Jones is a good player. If we're going to use the Ravens as an analogy or a frame of reference, Even though he's not an exact style comp, in terms of overall value, he's probably closer to Patrick Queen, the good version of Queen, because I guess he's struggling now, although I haven't watched him, so I can't really say that. But he's closer to Queen than he is Raquan in terms of just net value. But he does play Mike, so he's like, if Patrick Queen could play Mike, he's the equivalent of that, So you're talking about a top 10 linebacker, probably. You're probably talking about a top 20 linebacker, but also a top 20 linebacker that is 24. He's a complete player. He doesn't have weaknesses so much as just what makes him top 20 instead of top 10 is the intensity of his strengths aren't as high as they are in some areas. So it's more like it's a whole bunch of good and very little bad, no bad actually. But where you check off the boxes, he's perhaps not very good in all of them. He's perhaps not great at X, Y, or Z. He's good at all of them with maybe very good here, very good there. So, and we'll get into more of the details, but he absolutely improves them at a spot that they need significant improvement and where the weaknesses of the defense is sourced, which is early down run defense and early down play action and even early down drop back passing. So non-play action, when it's the reason why they're not very good defending non-play action passes on 1st and 10, but they are on 2nd and 8 and 3rd and whatever compared to other teams in those same contexts, keeping it relative, is because on 1st and 10, there are still run indicators on the field via the formations, the tendencies of the opposing team, and the personnel. But if they signal to the defense, hey, we're throwing the ball, then they can match with personnel, different players are on the field, different calls are on the field, and they defend it really well. So he improves you at all of your weak spots significantly. Then there's that potential multiplying effect because you're really good on 2nd and 6+, but because you see very few 2nd and 6+, because you're so bad on 1st down, creating more 2nd and shorts, with his presence on the field, in theory, you get more of those sample sizes where you already do well, and then you also improve in the samples where you don't do well. So he himself can be like a multiplier or like a key to unlock other elements of your defense that already work. And I mean, like, would I have preferred Quincy Williams in a vacuum just to be, if a beggar can be a chooser? Sure. But the upshot of this is that he's not that far behind a guy like Quincy Williams or Logan Wilson, but he's also 4 years younger than them. And so he could be even better. He could be as good, if not better than those guys in enough time, forming this relationship with Mike McDonald for the next few years, hopefully. So I like it. I'm pretty ecstatic about it. Matty, how do you feel about Ernest Jones and how he fits everything?
I'm excited. I think just seeing a guy who on tape is really solid all around, like there's not really a weak point to his game. He's just a really solid linebacker who also is very comfortable doing middle linebacker duties and doing some of the ball fitting or like quasi two gapping stuff that Tyrell Dodson, for instance, has found a bit more tricky. And Jerome Baker was struggling with too. And I think what this allows them to do as well, of course, is put Dodson at will, where that I think better suits Dodson's current skill set and strengths and weaknesses. And it will allow Dodson to play in less space most of the time. And generally also, if he's going to be over aggressive, either in coverage or the run, it will have less negative or extreme consequence. It actually might suit his game better. It might contribute better to the defense. Baker also looked fairly disinterested in certain plays, and there's just something not quite right, just looking at the tape. In fact, some of the plays we look at tonight, you might see Baker doing something. We might highlight him as being a bit of that's a slightly unusual rep. So, yeah, it's on the one hand, the Titans traded... It was super weird how they acquired Ernest Jones. Just, he's a 3rd-round pick of the Rams in 2021. Yeah. And then in 2024, the Titans, just before the season, managed to get him for a pick swap in 2026. So I have no idea what happened there. Like, I don't know if
Right.
there's been much reporting. But, like, why would the Rams do that? Like, if you look at the Rams linebackers now, it seems to be the clear weakness of their defense. I'm not sure what happened.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense beyond barring like information that is not football related, the only thing that makes sense is like they knew they already made up their mind and they weren't going to pay him just because on principle they didn't want to pay market rate for a linebacker, that isn't locked into a rookie deal. And maybe they would break that rule if it was Fred Warner, but Ernest Jones, as good as he is, isn't Fred Warner. So maybe they just we don't pay linebackers is their statement. So trade him while you can.
Yeah.
But then why is Tennessee trying to trade him? I mean, he's playing arguably
I don't think
the most important position on their defense. Their defense is good. Like, what's going on?
I don't think it's your choice. There's contract issues, I've thought. So just with the Rams thing, I think there can be contract issues, but why not have one more year of good play? Like you've literally just moved up around in the 2026 draft. You've gone from the 6th to the 5th round. Like, what is the point? There's zero point in doing that. So that is just weird to me. But with Tennessee, obviously they also traded DeAndre Hopkins. I just think for them to get a 4th round pick and get Baker, who in their mind they probably view as someone they can get better play out of than what we saw in Seattle and get fine play out of, and he's at least got some system familiarity.
And he has worked with the Titans linebacker coach as well.
Oh, okay.
In Miami.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be like massively concerned about why Tennessee's trading him. I just think they're soft quitting. But yeah, the Rams thing is interesting to me, and I guess the only thing with Jones is he ran a 4.71 second 40-yard dash, and that doesn't really matter. Like it in some ways, but then in other ways it does show up on film. Like he's not the fastest linebacker. Obviously in Seattle, over the past 12 years, we've seen some very, very fast linebackers, and I think it's another example of how ideally Jones would still be the weak side backer in the system. And you just have like a speeding missile in the middle of your defense.
Right.
And again, that's another reason why he's not what was I saying? Brandon just distracted me with this. Obviously, the 40-yard dash doesn't mean shit if you can't cover your gap, obviously. But Jones' ceiling is capped somewhat because he hasn't got the massive traits, which that's fine. Fred Warner ran a slow 40, but his movement skills are incredible in short areas.
Right.
I'm not saying Ernest Jones' movement skills are incredible in short areas.
He, to your point about him being better as a will, like if you're being greedy, like really greedy, he would be like a perfect weak side linebacker in the system.
Kind of. But, I want to say like kind of KJ Wrighty, even though he's not tall, but he's really long arms. Like nearly 34-inch long arms. I mean,
could KJ have had a good career playing middle linebacker? Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You would if you're being greedy, you play him at will, and you wait for the better Mike to come along. That's what happened via Bobby, just because Bobby ran a 4.45, and he's 245 pounds. Like, there's 3 of those human beings in the NFL right now. There's just so few of them, and but he can still play Mike just fine, and he played Will in LA, and then played Mike for the first time for real in Tennessee. So it'll work out there. But yeah, like breaking down the player more detailed. I mean, have you watched his Tennessee tape?
Yeah, he like I said, just solid all around, but very good at handling the kind of conflicty things, like splitting the distance between an RPO and then having to fold into the run, being able to duck around a guard when they're in a tight spot, keeping himself clean and staying square against blocks, knowing when he can take a bit more of a chance versus when he has to play conservative. And then as a dropper, pretty polished in his pedal and relating to the quarterback, and also being cognizant of how the routes and the patterns are developing down the field. So
Yeah, he
just
for
pretty
sure, for sure.
polished all around, which we just didn't see from an efficiency of movement that, again, I don't want to bash Dodson too much, but
It's just another level.
He's just completely different level. So
Yeah,
so that's exciting, and it's also an example of how I think, because obviously Seattle has invested significant assets at the linebacker position in the past, but you can get this guy's a 3rd round pick you got for a 4th rounder in a trade. These guys are out there, and this is the first. I'd be very interested in what McDonald's input has been on the linebacker position. There's a play on the All-22 where the linebackers do something pretty weird, and McDonald's on the sideline with his head in his hands, looking like really concerned, and
really?
Cousins checks
Okay.
the ball down. Just because the pass rush was doing its thing. And I really we'll never know, but I imagine the discussions behind the scenes between front office, between John Schneider and head coach Mike McDonald will have been interesting. And what his input was on the free agent additions in Baker and Dodson. I know he had some, but obviously all of those reports, all of the even the draft reports will have been done way before McDonald was announced as the head coach, just the nature of how it works. But this is nice. Like, it's a good sign, like, that they're able to make this type of move in season, upgrade. Like, it was the key, like, obvious area which was weak on the defense, and they've been aggressive, got it done, and not overpaid massively. Even though the Titans were pretty happy how they flipped these picks. But yeah.
And Maddie, we're not the types to toot our own horn, but also we are. We've been talking about a linebacker trade since the draft, before the draft. I'm sharing. I'm dispersing the credit equally.
The degeneracy.
We've been talking about a trade this whole freaking time, right? For that to actually happen is pretty cool. Because that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it feels like a trade is so obviously needed and they just sit on their hands, with it. So I don't know, pretty cool when that happens. Dig routes are no longer going to be free. They're going to be earned. If they get completed on the field hash area, they'll be earned. It won't just be yielded. So cool stuff.
Here's a question, Griff. What who would you have preferred, Devin Lloyd or Ernest Jones? Because obviously Devin Lloyd was theorized.
Jones.
Yeah.
Well, so when I watched more, I watched 3 games of Lloyd last year, and it was okay. Splashy player who has gotten better from where he was in college. There are still some concerns, but is he ascending? And then I watched 2 of his games this year, maybe even 3 this year, and it's just honestly bordering on a train wreck. And I think athletically he's declining because he has a knee issue, and that might be catching up with him. Like Jones, like in a straight line, Lloyd is faster, but overall as an athlete, like as a mover, quote unquote, like Jones is a better athlete than Lloyd functionally. So like, and Lloyd is like, he's a mensch at the position. Like, he's really smart out there. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's so comfortable with like muddy pictures. Like, he's so calm. He always ends up making the right decision when stuff is really subjective and gray. He's very comfortable with like contact on him and still moving around in the box. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, he's a legit linebacker. Like, not to get too geeky with it, but like when he's engaging a block straight up, hands, hips, shed, it's like everything is on a line, really fluid. So sometimes it looks like he's doing the straight up the shed drill, with
yeah.
So it's just a good player, man.
Yeah, I think he's just so much. I mean, I said polished, but he's so in control of. He never feels like he's on the edge. He's very in control of opponents.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eshwar, so much for the donation. That's very kind, man.
Thank you, sir.
If you have a question, Esra, please get that answered, and we'll get to that. Right. The tape. Let's start with the defense. Now, this always comes with always.
Often.
This episode, it comes with the caveat that obviously you're adding Ernest Jones into the mix, so that's exciting. And I think we need to view some of this with the idea that Jones is going to upgrade some of the issues here, but some of it's also will continue. So let's start with a talk about pass rush and D-line talent. And this is more of like a data thing. Hold on, let me just unmess myself. Always a good idea. Present. And guys, if you missed it, I have got all the questions that you were kind enough to share on Twitter. So we'll be trying to get those answered during the show. So this is Tyler Gorse, who is the Denver Broncos Senior Coordinator of Football Communications. Wow, that is a cool title. They shared next-gen stats, quarterback pressures from an NFL interior defensive lineman, and also the quarterback pressure percentage from NFL interior defensive lineman. Now, Zach Allen of the Broncos, who the Seahawks were rumored to have heavy interest in when he became a free agent of the Arizona Cardinals, is the leader at both. But there is a Seattle name on the list, and it's not Leonard Williams. I guess he missed some games, but he would probably be up there. Did Leonard Williams miss games? No, he didn't. But Byron Murphy did. Anyway, but the name on there is Jaron Reed. Jaron Reed, 5th in the NFL in quarterback pressures and 4th in quarterback pressure percentage.
He's been quietly playing really good football, man. He actually had a couple of rough reps in run defense this game. He got reached a couple of times.
Oh, goodness.
But he's been as more or less as good as he was last year. The
Nice.
trio of him, Williams, and Murphy at full go is a lot to handle.
Right.
And then Hankins, of course, coming off the bench, being used the way he should be used. I mean, they've got quite the interior. So
Yeah, so when I asked, so lasting impressions of this defense tape drift before we dive into other topics. But for me, and why I kind of wanted to lead in with that is this D-line allows them to get away with quite a lot from a coverage and a run defense perspective. Like, this D-line's really special, I think. They're not even healthy fully. I don't know when Nwoshu's going to be back. Obviously, injuries are part and parcel of the NFL, but they are getting consistent rush. I think Adam Dirty and the rest of the D-line coaching staff are doing a really good job with how they're getting guys rushing as a group, which is a term Dirty uses, but they're being fairly selfless. They've developed a really good chemistry. They're not even doing too much like exotic stuff. I mean, an overload front, which listeners of the show should be very well versed in, given our name. But just look at the logo. But they do that, but really they're just rushing for guys down at the line and getting stuff done, and they're getting contributions out of everyone, which is exciting.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
To be fair.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair, if they're not familiar with an overload front, I mean, given how frequently it's like talked about, I mean, you haven't watched Children of Men either, to be fair, given how frequently it's a fixture of the podcast, in the chat among the hosts, at least one of the hosts. So, but anyway, I digress.
Cool. Thanks for that. So yeah, that was my lasting impression of the defense, Griff. What was your lasting impression?
So 14 points. You got to take stock of that. You can't just you can't dismiss like giving up 14 points in the NFL in 2024 is like really good, right? The EPA for this game, like the more advanced metrics, which is a little more illustrative than points or points per drive, they were 13th, which is good. On rbsdm.com, runningbacksdon'tmatter.com, if there's a tool or a filter where you can eliminate turnovers for all defenses, and you can see how they did. And turnovers are important. Turnovers are real, right? So I'm not trying to minimize them, but to just kind of give a picture of like how did the defense do when they weren't causing turnovers, because turnovers can be kind of fluky. They were like 22nd, and then the success rate was like bottom 3, and then put that in the post game. But so really the point is like when they weren't turning the ball over with those 2 interceptions, which were kind of gifts, but or creating sacks or the sack fumble, which those are real. Like you can repeat that because their pass rush is real. When they weren't doing those things, I mean, Atlanta was more or less able to do whatever they wanted offensively. Now those drives got killed again because of the sacks and stuff. But so like there, which is to say, like taking those numbers and trying to conclude off of that, like, yeah, there's still some structural issues with this defense. The D line fixes a lot. It cleans up a lot. And like there's some things, just the way like the second level, like the decision making the linebackers are making, it's just some of it is baffling. It's not just the linebackers, it was also Julian Love and Kayvon Wallace when they were coming down to the box. I couldn't make sense of it. Now, the one positive though that I take from this game, even more than the pass rush production, the interceptions, is that there was only one air yard explosive of over 20 yards in the whole game. And that was just that deep comeback, which is to say, like, their structure didn't break like this game. It was more them getting nickel and dimed in the short area or getting gashed in the intermediate. But they didn't have a huge bust in coverage like they did the previous week and the week before that. There weren't guys just getting destroyed downfield. So that in and of itself, to me, is the biggest takeaway of this game. Like, not the points, not the EPA, not the sacks, not the interceptions. It was that they kept a lid on the defense. And so if they can maintain that and then theoretically improve their run defense with the addition of Jones and just everybody kind of working together better, then that is kind of the pitch for, okay, this defense can be better than it's been and be more consistent overall.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with one of the turnovers. And this is going to explain what an overload front is again. So one thing which is really cool is Boye Mafe being used in this role, which he's not the most fluid athlete, so it's not maybe the most obvious thing, but he gets used when they're cooking, particularly on passing third downs, as like a stand-up 3 technique, as you can see here. And his athletic ability to just be able to run quarterbacks down if they get flushed from the pocket, as we saw. Oh my gosh, someone's excited. Someone's jingle jangling over Boye Mafe's stand-up 3 technique. But here we have a weak overload front, meaning here's 3 D linemen here, here's 1 D lineman here. That can essentially mess with pass protection. It kind of guarantees you're going to get one of 2 things. Either we slide everyone this way and or leave this guy here and have the back here, or we go big on big. Like this. So essentially you're getting this guy always one-on-one. There's only going to be 2 types of pass protection. And this is a pretty simple thing, but it's also an example of how they rush as a kind of selfless group, where Derek Hall is always going to give you this type of power and flash to the inside and move Cousins off his spot. This is, again, a selfless rush from Jones, where he's flashing to the inside. They understand that this is a fairly quick setup from Cousins. He's looking to get the ball out fairly fast. They're understanding kind of the situation here, that rushing around the back of the arc isn't really going to affect the quarterback. Like, I don't even know if... it depends on the charting company. This might not get charted as a pressure. It might, for Jones, maybe not. But he's flashing right on the front side in Kirk Cousins' passing lane, which is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And Maffei is just so athletic in terms of just his straight line speed. So he's a really cool guy to. This isn't the best execution of. They're just running a little exchange between these two, but Maffei's so good at being able to just run guys down. And Hall might be their best pass rusher, right, Griff? Like, I see Brandon saying Hall won so fast. I think Derek Hall right now is the best pass rusher.
I think
like,
so.
Pure pass rusher.
Could be.
At edge.
At edge, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's close. I mean, if it's not Hall already, it's close. Again, I'm not a self-horned tutor. I did say I did kind of predict that I think Hall is going to be better than Maffei, but right now I don't think it's clear that he is. I feel like they're maybe neck and neck.
Yeah,
but I still want to see more knockdown moves, more outside moves from Hall.
Do you think because he's a shorter guy that's less likely?
I think he just wants to. I think he just wants to crack skulls, man. I think he just wants to.
Because if you're like generally shorter than people, surely you want to play under them more rather than knock them down.
Yeah. I mean, he had the speed rip right. At Auburn, with the outside speed rush, and we've seen that a little bit. But I would like to see him work that more. I think he needs to vary more, like footwork, like pressing the tackle with jab steps and the little hesitation game. To open it up a little bit more to shorten the tackle set. I think that will be what happens next.
I'm really looking forward to seeing him against, the Atlanta's O-line just in general wasn't very good. Yeah. But seeing him against the top tackles.
Right. Is Havenstein still the Rams' right tackle?
I think so.
Because he's like 6'7".
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know actually about that.
I think he is, unless he's hurt. Yeah, he is. But the thing with him though is that he's 6'8", and that's presenting a lot of surface for a bull rusher like Derek Hall. Yeah. So I think that will be a fun matchup, Derek Hall versus Rob Havenstein.
Also, this transitions us nicely to pass defense, Griff. And the pass defense we had at corner, we had Josh Jobe. Or are we going to go with Jobe or Joby? And we had
I think it's Jobe.
Okay, Josh Jobe. There we go. And Nehemiah Pritchett. And they both did a pretty good job. Props to Kyle Scott and whoever the corners coach is.
Isn't it crazy that we haven't memorized all that by now?
I know. This is the deep half side and the cover 2 side. And this is cover 4. And I want to look at Pritchett right here. The reason this ball doesn't get thrown by Cousins, yes, Jones and Hall have good rushes, but Cousins is thinking about throwing here or here or here. And I mean, I was not impressed generally with Atlanta's passing concepts. I thought Seattle basically played quarter, half, or half, quarter. We would call this half, quarter, because the half side is to the receiving strength, whereas if this was the quarter side to the receiving strength, it would be quarter, half. But there's nothing here. But I think Pritchett does a nice job sailing to this route. They also had Spoon really hugging the check down element where he wasn't getting depth too much for this type of curl window. He was really hugging the first thing from the 2 in cover 3 as well. And that caused problems for Cousins. Obviously, you're able to do this in zone more often when you have a reliable pass rush like this. So that was a big effective. But I thought Pritchett and Jobe did pretty damn well. And Jobe is a step kicker, which, that's cool. He looked pretty polished at it as well. He had the 1 DPI penalty, which I thought was bogus, but, yeah. And then the best part of the play, the embodiment of Devin Witherspoon zooming down the field to join his teammate and make a block, which honestly probably ensured the touchdown. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that was an awesome play. I think Earl Thomas had a similar thing in this stadium at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium against the Falcons. I might be
Nice.
misremembering that. It might have been somewhere else. But the maniacal energy, the focused energy, like the constructive, insane energy on
Yeah.
the field that Devin has reminds me of Earl Thomas above anyone.
You know, one thing I wanted to highlight as well here is here's Jerome Baker. Now he's away from the play, so let's not like, you know, players do take plays off, but just the general vibe of
Yeah, man. So
this
McDonald
is just a
sees
bad
that.
vibe.
I mean,
And
he's
that
got
would get highlighted on the tape. That he is
right.
the furthest player away just by the coverage scheme, but like
Yeah,
everyone else is kind of jogging after that at least. There's a
and so
half-hearted raise of the hand, but
and like if other things weren't going well, you probably don't think about that too much from him. But that little thing combined with all the other stuff, it's you probably think like, is he bringing the
the
energy
juice,
and investment that they're wanting to see? You know, and
right?
the answer
I
is
mean,
just probably not.
all of
And
the sideline beat him to the play.
right, and like
So
it sucks because he has a skill set. You know, he's played good football before. He signed
yeah,
a real contract in Miami. Like they cut him for injury and cap reasons, but
and we don't know
is
what these
is what it
players are
is.
going through. Like he might,
Yeah,
you know, he might hate Seattle. There might be stuff in his personal life. We don't want to speculate, but there's clearly, whatever the case, there's clearly something was just not right.
right.
And so,
I hope he does well in Tennessee. You know, I hope he reclaims his career. You know,
and I do think some of the stuff we see as well, you could call into questions some of what the coaching is. All right, so here we have a 1st and 10. This is the first interception. So Griff, you have some pass defense numbers just on the general pass defense, which suggests that, and it's kind of links to the Job and Pritchett discussion, I think. Do you have those pass defense numbers on you?
I mean, are you referring to the team stats of this game?
Yeah. So like about if you've removed turnovers.
Yeah. So if you remove turnovers for this game this week in EPA, they were 22nd, which is not great. So, and it was primarily Cousins getting what he wanted in the first level and the second level.
Yeah.
Um,
So like check down stuff and
in choice and things of that nature.
right, like quick game sort of stuff.
Right.
And you also said how Cousins only had one completion over 20 air yards, and it was like
He
a
only
deep comeback.
right, and he threw five of them. They only completed one. And when it's a deep comeback getting completed, that's not really your structure breaking. It's more your structure getting beat in isolation. But it's a one-on-one thing, right? So the defense defended that stuff well. Again, like better execution from Atlanta. The two interceptions probably get completed, but the defense still made it like tough on them, I think. So
Yeah. So let's talk about the two picks. And obviously Atlanta was in pass first mode. This is just a solid play. So you can see here how this is the cover 4 side, and this is the cover 2 side, I believe.
right. So because Baker is not the flat defender, that means he's the curl defender. He's playing interior zone. He's going to be the guy when McDonald says vice coverage, an inbreaker from the seam or a bender or whatever from that slot from that slot receiver. Baker's going to play underneath and inside, and then the cover 2 safety up top is going to play outside and on top, and they'll get that like diagonal bracket coverage, that vice coverage. I think he even said where we V it, like the letter V, like a vice bracket or whatever he said. But ideally, you'd get Baker bending a step earlier and then also slightly better angle.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he's
it's
kind of
okay.
late, and It's weird he went flat here and flat and back here rather than
Right.
you'd think it would be. Well, and we noticed this last week as well, right? You think it would
Noticed
be
what?
with this type of flat step first from Raytron Jenkins as well in cover 2 curl. Like you think it would be more of a 45 and back.
Yeah, 45, then another 45, right?
Like your help is the corner in the flat here.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they did good enough. It's actually a bad miss from Cousins, and obviously here this is again the pass rush. Just as I said, they're pretty damn special.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is pretty good from Dodson. Because the idea is you want your zone defenders converging, taking as much air out of the window as possible. So, like, Dodson's not going to be primarily or even secondarily responsible, but he can still give you something for the middle hook area, which is what he's playing. Kind of like splitting the hash and then melting accordingly to what the offense tells you, you know?
Right, and
he
this
does
is
a pretty good job.
To the boundary, right? Like, the field's here.
Right.
Yes, I like how he opens his hips, sort of gaining depth here with the QB's eyes looking more here, reading him out like this.
Like he's not biting on the running back. He's actually helping the defense out, the intermediate.
He's in a great position to break on the football, really, from... He still has to be cognizant of this and this. Oh, crap, I've just... This and this. But he's in the perfect position to be able to plant. Yeah, so this is a solid rep. Although that should be complete.
And so
if it was complete, we'd be criticizing Baker's drop here, I think.
We would be. Collectively, it still forces a high-ish throw, which leads to the drop, but it's still a clean drop. I mean, just because you have to elevate for the ball doesn't mean you still shouldn't catch it if it hits your hands. Yeah. We'll see better from this angle.
Yeah, 1 second. What down and distance was this? 1st and 10. Guys, we've got a question here from Nobro. Thank you for the donation, saying, why do the defensive backs cover from depth on 3rd and shorts? This isn't a 3rd down. I haven't seen them cover loads from depth on 3rd and short, so I will look out for that, but I don't know. Griff, is that a thing?
I'm not sure. I mean... you're supposed to align 10 to 12 yards pre-snap, the safeties are in a too high shell. That's what they're doing here. So,
I
don't know.
Maybe that will come up, but yeah. Chris asking about how do you think Kobe Bryant compares to Raytron Jenkins? Do you think Reed could potentially be the future starter at post safety? We'll answer that in a bit, Chris, because there's a lot of Kobe Bryant stuff. I know Roger asked us a question on Twitter about that too, but thank you for the donation, Chris.
Thank you, sir.
Right, so yeah, you see the end zone angle here, Griff.
Yeah.
Let me get... I can't really get rid of our logo because I think we'll get in trouble even more.
So just a high ball.
Yeah. I mean,
and like,
it has to be caught.
It needs to be caught. If you want to know, what does an elite rep look like from a linebacker that's in Baker's position? Jordan Brooks, he just so happens to be the example. Had a perfect rep of this exact same route concept, the exact same coverage of what the technique from the curl defender using a drift drop where you drop to the angle diagonally and then drift underneath it. It's kind of of what it looks like, and it's just that's what the difference is.
And then obviously, as Jen points out in the chat, Byron Murphy's in Kirk Cousins' lap, and so this is an example of the chemistry that's developing on the D line. So we have here Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. They are sliding their pass pro to the Byron Murphy side, and so this is the man side. So we know we have a one-on-one here, and we know we're double teamed here. So one thing you can do in that situation is run a tackle game where I'm going to pick, like a pick and roll in basketball, I'm going to pick the guard down. I know he'll step down with me because he's man on me. The center's going away. But I'm also, as I pick the guard, going to knock the center off this guy who's going to loop around the back of me into that space as this guy steps down. So I will try and slow play this through if it's too juddery. But you can see how he knocks the center off. I mean, again, their offensive line's not the best offensive line, but it's still the NFL, and this is still rushing 4 guys. This isn't particularly exotic. This is just 2 absolute incredibly good defensive tackles right now. Williams picking the center, and then Murphy, who's enjoyed playing a 2-eye, so he's been able to use some of that space to shrink down onto the center, engaging. Great timing between the 2, looping round to the quarterback, Cousins. So it's an example of what the D-line's able to do. Really impressive stuff. Leonard Williams, and it's going to show up on the run defense stuff. That deal was looking like a fantastic acquisition. Like a no-brainer now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really
so
good,
disruptive, run and pass.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. Like here, he wouldn't get credited with the go-to pass rush stats, but this is perfect execution between the 2.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Dragon, I'm not sure. What do you mean by over the middle here? Where's open over the middle? This is the throw. I think this is a good decision from Cousins. He just airs it with pressure, and the guy should still catch the football.
Maybe
if you mean the
means...
back, that's the check down. Yeah. Right. Let's go to the other pick. Now, the other pick is an example of McDonald really being in his bag. Again, it's easier to be in your bag when it's... I don't think this is 4th down. 1st and 10, but you've got a lead. You've got a 20-point lead. The Atlanta's passing the ball all over the shop. But this is cool. So right now, that looks like cover 3, right? Like, we got a nickel here. We got a safety here. There's a couple of things where it looks a bit suspicious, but generally it looks like cover 3 or cover 1. We've got our post safety here. We got our hook. 4-man pass rush, our deep third corner, and our deep third corner. Or it could just be man across the board. Like that. This is Cousins throwing a pick into cover 2. So we'll just play it through. And I want you to watch Julian Love here.
Pretty cool rotation and trade.
Right. So they're actually playing Devin Witherspoon in the deep half on this side. Kobe Bryant's playing in the deep half on this side. Julian Love, who played in the slot, he's aligned in the slot, is playing as the pole runner in Tampa 2. Mm-hmm. And then we have curl.
And then the corners are the flat players, the cloud corner.
Nice hinge from Pritchett. His cover 2 stuff's been very well coached by Kyle Scott.
Mm-hmm. So I believe that Cousins reads this out correctly.
Yeah, he sees what's going on.
Because the safety's bailing away from it, right? The middle hook player is pushing away from it to get to the middle hook. That's Julian Love. And then Baker's just flat-footed. But Baker's not giving you anything here.
Yeah, this is a poor rep from Baker to not think a bit more, right?
Right.
Or not know.
He sits down with the running back release, essentially. Yep. And the pressure, the pass rush is putting some heat on Cousins, so he's speeding up.
Yep.
And it's a high ball, like it's a bad ball. It's thrown right to Kobe, but it's still a good recovery from Kobe. Like look at Kobe's footwork.
This is beautiful.
Works flat. He works flat and laterally to it instead of coming downhill and then trying to catch up to the route.
I don't think we're going to see it from this angle. It's like a T-step.
Yeah.
Like classic corner type footwork here, which obviously Kobe has.
Makes sense for him. So like right there, instead of going down and then trying to intersect with the receiver, he works flat back toward the middle of the field. And
Yeah.
that helps set up the interception.
Yeah, it's a really good pick. So, on the subject of Kobe, he did some nice things in the coverage aspect of this game. He did have some disappointing tackles that I think are going to show up. So, Griff, with the run defense, I've kind of come a full 180 on it. I rapidly watched through the tape, and I was like, "Huh, they've adjusted some things schematically." And there was maybe one or two calls that were different in the second half, but I don't necessarily think. Like, I think they were always in the game plan, and it just so happened that that's the way they played out. And I don't really want to overanalyze that. Mm-hmm. If anything, I saw kind of the same issues that have been present throughout the season, and then the same strengths to the team. I don't know if we want to start with the issues or the strengths, but I think it's insightful that Atlanta was still running the ball fairly well in the second half. Seattle managed to get a couple of negative plays, but the standout stats or fact to me is that after the Kirk Cousins sack fumble, which obviously we've just seen got run back for a touchdown, Atlanta ran the ball 0 times with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback. They just straight up said, nope, no more running. We're just pass. And obviously Seattle adapted to that. They're able to do stuff like this where they're disguising their rotation, doing some funky stuff on the back end, but they're not having to worry about playing the run. But actually, the weird run defense stuff kind of was or the bad run defense stuff was kind of a thing throughout.
It was a mixed bag of like every reason for why there was bad run defense. Sometimes it was when they're gapped out, one high run defense where everyone just has one gap to worry about. You've got the second level just working back across their face when they shouldn't. Occasionally you have defensive linemen getting reached, where that's where they're getting outnumbered to the play side. Occasionally it's when you're in too high and then guys just aren't playing it right, like overplaying their initial gap. And then sometimes in too high, you just have got like the linebackers just playing the wrong, like not relating to what the running back is doing at all. Cause that's when you have to read the running back is in too high. You have to, what gap you play is relative to what the running back is doing when you're out gapped, when you're down a gap, when you're in too high. And sometimes they're just shooting the inside gap at the expense of the outside gap. It's like, if you're wrong, it's a house call. And that's more or less what happened. And it's not even like, oh, they just played it wrong, or it's like, what do they think they were doing? Like, honestly, like when they watch the tape, are they just going to face palm and like, because when you're out there, I imagine like the bullets start flying and you do things that, you know, and it makes perfect sense in hindsight. They shouldn't have done that. But in the moment, I don't know, like a brain fart, like I don't know, but like there's no like rational explanation for a lot of it.
Yeah. So the other thing that maybe changed from first half to second half is what Leonard Williams said after the game to the Athletics, Mike Sean Dugar, which was he said that the D-line just stopped running lateral. And he said that they checked in with each other and said, let's get vertical, let's knock blocks back. Which I'm not... That's obviously right after the game where, you know, he hasn't watched the tape. He hasn't dove into exactly what happened. He's sharing his thoughts, and they are very insightful. I don't necessarily know how much. I think this was more just it just so happened to marry with what Atlanta started doing defensively. Offensively.
Offensively, yeah.
Yeah, like they ran more like tighter type runs. I don't know how much stock I put in this, but there are a couple of plays in the first half where the D-line is really
too deep in the backfield.
Yeah, too deep. So almost getting too much knockback. So this doesn't actually match.
Roy Robertson Harris had a couple of them where he kind of screws up the second level, getting too much penetration, getting himself reached. Leonard Williams has a couple where he's like too penetrative, and the defense kind of just shuts down, thinking the play is dead, but it's very much not. You've got Derek Hall getting a little too excited, getting into the backfield. And that's where, when that happens, that's when the second level starts doing really weird stuff to me. That's when they lose their discipline and they just almost kind of start freestyling and just trying to race to the ball. And in doing so against a running back like Bijan Robinson, abandoning your gap integrity, when that happens, it's like that. That's when they started seeing those 5, 6, 7, 8 yarders that should have been 2, 3, 4 yarders. So
for me, this could be an example of the D line. Oh, maybe not.
I think that one goes for 4.
I thought they kind of were playing sideways here, but they're just anticipating the combo. I was just trying to, after Williams had said that, I was trying to find examples of it.
I think the principle is when they got depth, they stayed square,
right,
and remained available to affect the ball path,
right,
the running back path.
Let's look at some more, like, obviously, like, this isn't good. So this is a 1st and 10, too high run fits. I'd be interested, and their too high run fits are back to struggling. And I think what San Francisco did on offense kind of allowed their too high fits to be good. Like, it's 2 back. They were running to the tight end every time. That it was zone. There was nothing too, like, there's a reason that over front, too high stuff works against that and has worked for years. Like, it's historically proven. I don't think it was like a good situation for Seattle, but they was back to struggling in this game.
I think this was the play where Reed just gets reached, right? Because he's got the B gap and he just gets walled into the A gap.
So I wondered, this is probably given too much credit, but the way they set the under front to the passing strength and to the field and to the nickel, and to the tight end, right? I wondered if the idea was play heavy here, I fit off you. If it hits here, I go in the B gap. If it hits here, I get into the A gap. And we almost stunt from under, or slow stunt from under into over. But I think it's Reed just getting reached. But yeah, it's not a good. It's not a good look.
Yeah, so this technically wouldn't be on Baker.
No, but I did wonder about the potential for
what you were saying about Reed, yeah. Like trying to play heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to be how they're kind of coaching these guys to get the knockback, when, especially in too high, but it just doesn't play out.
So you play thick and then you try to work back, but you see Reed running back, reading the running back there. Like, he chooses to stay backside, and I just don't know why he would attempt to do that, because he understands that he's creating a bubble when he does that.
Well, as though he thinks Baker's going to fit off it. Like, if you look at the first play of the game, this, I think, is a play action, but it's again under to the field, right? So here's this is the 2, this is the 3. It would, like, open, and they're in middle field closed here, so it's a bit different. But it opens up this B for the nickel, and they almost, get into over post snap. Oh crap!
Did you bite on the play action?
No. It's just because I left my drawing there. But I wondered if that was a purposeful. It's just how they're playing so much under in nickel was interesting to me.
Yeah.
And why they'd do that.
Well, I always think about
start the game.
Yeah, I mean, my mind always thinks about when you try to ensure that the 3 technique is to the boundary against a Shanahan team or a McVay team. My mind always goes to trying to allow the linebackers to push to the field for play action. But
yeah,
that might be law of the instrument for me. There could be other reasons why.
No, that's definitely a plus to that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So obviously, if you get reached up front, if that is what happened, that's never going to help. Here's a similar issue to what we saw against the 49ers, where the rotation seems uncertain of the safeties. So, oh no, that's yeah. Here we go. So these linebacker alignments to me are really it's interesting how Dodson is adjusting his alignment and Baker is not. And then Dodson makes one heck of a play.
Dodson does really well here. Staying front side on like the tight end insert. Really the tight end lead.
But look how wide Love is here, and if it's one gap defense, surely we can bump out here, bump here, right?
Yeah, I mean, because now Love, if the tight end stays on that side,
right,
and
if
it runs
here,
away from you, how are you going to get front side leverage into that? You're not. So.
And then look, so Love is technically in the run fit here, right? So this is technically his gap. Eventually, we need to get here, and we need to get, to this guy, right?
You're the lever. You're the turn back player. You want front side leverage on that.
They're all just playing so. I mean, Dodson does a great job, but Baker having to backdoor this is not.
It was a good. Like improv decision up from Baker's part, reading that out, because he'd have to go over the top.
But like blocking scheme wise here, this should, on a chalkboard, that should happen, and Baker should be here, and Love should be where Baker is. But by alignment, they're completely screwed at the snap when they should have the numbers in the box, because on the chalkboard, we should feel good about this.
And this is, again, the late safety spin, not bumping the linebackers over quickly enough or at all.
They don't stem with the... Dodson's trying to, but Baker's not stemming. Baker should be here, and Dodson should be kind of here. But also, you can see there's uncertainty, a moment of uncertainty between the safeties. When this guy starts going back, I think Bryant thinks that he... You see? He's like kind of wanting to come down again. I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah.
So that's just like a one high deal where we saw that against the 49ers where they should have the extra guy in the box for the gaps, but because of their alignment, that extra guy is not contributing in the box. They're playing as though they don't have him. And it's creating real angles that the D-line's kind of... A lot of the plays in the second half, unfortunately, are more D-line bailing out. Like, there's some cool bare front things and there's some cool scheme things that I'll talk about, but they were doing that in the first half.
Like the B-gap plug from the will that we'll see later. Yeah, I mean, when the defense only works when you get a hero play from someone like we just saw from Dodson,
that's disconcerting.
Like, especially for one high, because one high is supposed to be sound and easy, but they make it unsound. So this is so rough. So too high, the safeties are not in the run fit. You're down a gap in the box, and you've got the edge getting reached, getting cracked, and then the second level isn't working over the top, pulling the chain to correct the edge getting cracked. Or in this case, does he even get cracked? Does he just...
I think, is this a stunt?
Why would you? Yeah, it is. Now, okay, why would you stunt at all? Why would you call that when you have a close split from the slot or whatever?
It should be ice because we're anticipating a crackback.
And it's because what correlates with the crack? Either a toss or outside zone. So you're not gonna cut off the back Bijan Robinson, you're not going to get there on his, like, you're not
Right.
going to beat him to the outside there. So
Algier.
yeah, it's Algier. But even with Algier, so Algier just gets a free lane. He gets a free edge. Now everyone has to gain a gap at the second level. They all have to work over the top to make this work. And like that's before the ball even cuts back. So now you got to worry about, can you fall back if the ball were to cut back? But you don't. Instead, you just get a free crease.
Yeah.
So Devin will have to work over the top of Drake London, I think. He does.
They
But
basically
then
closed the B gap.
Dodson doesn't fill accordingly. Dodson has to get over the top of Pitts, the tight end, Kyle Pitts.
But he's thinking about
not
the
65 at least. I mean, you got to get front side leverage. So they don't seem to. It's like they don't really understand like where the bubbles are in the front. And
well, Dodson's worried about the A gap, isn't he? Because they've walked out Baker with this, so Dodson's thinking I have to be here.
But they're ball fitting, right? You got two gaps. You
I know.
don't. So you got to at least stack the back, right?
I know. You've got to be here and then falling back. He's not stacking at all. It doesn't speak of good coaching here, and also, or it's not at least transferring to the players, but also, basically here they've closed the B and just opened the C, right? Like, I hate.
I just don't understand why you would even attempt to do that. What you just described against this team in that formation and the alerts there.
Yeah.
So look at that picture that you just paused. That's exactly what an offense. Zach Robinson's up in the sky, the booth up top, the sky box, and he's like, beautiful. He already knows it's popping, like right here.
I wondered if it was supposed to be Griff here. I wondered if it was supposed to be this and cancel the C gap to keep this guy out and the corner out.
You think so?
If you watch Murphy's first step, it's very flat, but I don't know if he's just mirror stepping the wide angle.
I think he's just, like you said, yeah. And look at how much ground he covers, Murphy does.
Yeah. We do have a cool game to look at, which is like that, but...
All right.
Yeah. This just doesn't make sense to me. But I'm glad it didn't make sense to you. It's always reassuring. Right, this is another one-eye fit, I think, which isn't great. It doesn't make sense to me. This might be what they were referring to about playing too sideways, but it's kind of knockback. But anyway.
Yeah. This one drives me insane on the end zone angle. So everyone's got one gap because Love spins down. Yeah,
so I don't know if they know where.
So can you pause it before the like right here? So let's just look at who has what gap, so it's crystal clear.
Fuck.
So right there. So on the left side, you got Roy. Well, can we start on the left side though? So Roy Robertson is the C gap player. Baker is the B. Who is that?
That's Hankins.
Hankins is the A. Dodson the A. Leonard Williams the B. Now it gets a little funky there because you've got the receiver, but when the receiver folds in, Wallace needs to keep inside leverage on him. He needs to spill him.
Dude.
And then the corner needs to fold over the top and bracket him because he's the lone receiver on that side. So the corner needs to get involved because, but you're still gapped out. But Wallace, as the clip will show, plays outside leverage on 5. I believe he does anyway, if I'm remembering this correctly.
He does. And they by the way, the Falcons kept rapping like this and they just kept destroying Seattle.
So the question is, like, if Wallace is going to play it like this, then who is supposed to play the new C gap that the receiver forms? Like who? Like he works inside, but then he works,
Perfect.
and then the corner should be folding in, but now he's
Disaster. Here's the
like,
corner.
why?
They're so lucky as well. Like, they're so lucky that their D-line are shedding blocks, because
Right.
otherwise these are touchdowns.
So this is something that could have been 3 or 4 yards that goes for 7 or 8.
Yeah, so what we're saying, guys, is Wallace here needs to take this block on, because everyone here isn't helping if the ball cuts back as it does. They're not able to help if it goes here, because they're all gapped out. They're all in their gaps over this side, which is why the ball's cut back in the first place. Wallace, the only guy who can help make the play, who can get involved, is the number one receiver. So the guy who's involved with the number one receiver is the corner out here. So when the number one receiver wraps in like this, the corner doesn't have a guy to cover other than the two who's blocking out here. So he can just walk in, see, look for work, eyes to the backfield. Where's the ball? Oh, it's handed off. I'm going to fit off my help here. If I take this on inside out, which he does, let me move the pen. Initially, you can see that the corner is here. He's ready to fold in. But we have to be inside, because otherwise, now there's no one. We've got two guys, but this is basically two guys in the same gap, which you never want to have on defense. There's a few other things, Griff, on this play, which are weird, really weird to me. So, firstly, as we've talked about before, still an issue. Tyrell Dodson, if we're gapped out, why are we matching the back's footwork so extreme? Like, what is that? Why have we felt the need to stack here? You have made this guy's job so easy.
Yep.
Why are we not tempoing it more into our gap? And why are we not just playing down into our gaps?
Yeah. You could just, because you don't need to worry about working back, because you got your back covered.
Now look how wide your gap's got. You could be here.
Right.
That's odd.
The other aspect of it is this is probably where getting vertical into the backfield works against the second level. You got Leonard Williams.
Yeah, so
getting penetration. And widening that the C gap.
Yeah, so he decides, he knows he's getting comboed, which is good pre-snap indicators. He decides, rather than striking the 3 technique, which would help Wallace because this guy wouldn't block, striking the guard, he plays into the tackle like a 4-eye and then gets into the backfield. Great job. But it means that the ball really bounces around if you don't make that tackle. He kind of gets held, but yeah.
Yeah, if he was able to stay more square and not give up as much ground, just be a little more patient, then that C gap probably isn't as wide. I still just don't understand. Like, I wonder, does Wallace just think he's going to shove London out of the picture completely?
Yeah,
and be available to make a play?
Yeah. But anyway, right. So remember that play, guys. Here's the same look, right? Julian Love, good, right? Here's the wrap. Here's the fold. We're gapped out again. Let's draw it up at the snap.
Let's watch Baker.
Focusing on the positives.
All right.
Love here coming into this gap. This guy is folding into the gap, so I'm going to take him on inside out. I know the corner can help me make the play. So as we dial that up, here's the corner. Here's the gap. Here's the gap. Perfect.
So Love does what Wallace should have done last play.
Right. Remember this for Julian Love as well, because we'll get there. But okay, what's bad about the play is the linebackers on this one. It's very unusual.
So pre-snap, Baker is the A-gap player.
Yes.
He needs to keep his pre-snap leverage on the left guard. He needs to stay in that A-gap. But as we'll see, so you're not ball fitting here, you're gap fitting. It's one high. Everyone's just got one gap. Just stay in your gap. If everyone does that, the ball comes to you.
He should be thinking as soon as he gets that departure and the back steps to, right? Stay inside leverage. He ends up in the same... Well, he ends up in like... Oh my God.
Now you have 2 B-gap players, essentially.
Yeah, he almost ends up in the C.
And I wonder, does he think he's correcting Williams because
he's fitting off him, which is like, why are we fitting off guys playing like this and not just playing our gaps, you know?
Yeah. So if what happens here is if Baker plays the A like he probably should, and Leonard stays square and doesn't like, if Williams stays square and doesn't try to like spin like this, then Love would be making the play in junction with Williams probably helping on the tackle.
Well, in the corner maybe as well, yeah.
Yeah, the corner too. So,
but yeah, but this is where Baker should be, right?
Right, and doing so would keep Bijan Robinson like on the hash. He wouldn't spit that way. But it's just like
this guy's not playing together and not really doing what you should be doing. Like the whole system is.
What are you keying? What is the eye progression? What
it seems like it's pure running back.
It seems like when you're gapped out one.
He gets a run read and then his eyes are straight to the back. He doesn't really care about what this guy's angle of departure is, which is so weird.
The only thing I can think is maybe because there was so much of the folding and inserting receivers that they told the linebackers to kind of have a ball fitting mindset because they're adding in an extra gap on you. So it's like maybe they wanted Dodson to fall front side. But then if you do that and you're over aggressive, then that B gap bubble is wide open. So I don't know.
Right, now have a look at this one. All right. Look at Love here, Griff.
Yeah, so he needs to. So look, you've got two force defenders now because the corner, when the receiver folds in, the corner inserts, he's in the run fit. But then Love stays outside leverage on him. And so now he in the corner, you got two guys manning one gap and no one manning the D gap now. Or whatever it is. Yeah, the D gap. So they're like in the E gap, right? I think. And that D gap is wide open. Now Baker actually does well here because Baker's supposed to be spilling 76, staying inside 76. I believe he actually does a good job. He actually does a good job to work back to be available for the tackle. But again, it's like part of the issue is I think the edges and the defensive linemen are getting too penetrative.
What?
I felt like Derek Hall could have just tried to work the block more, block control more instead of trying to gain ground like he does.
So maybe that's part of what Leonard Williams was alluding to?
Could be. Like it's not if the second level was more locked in, what the D-line was doing wouldn't be a problem. It would be positive even. But
yeah, the second level is not locked in at all.
It's like the D-line needs to play as well as they were playing, but differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you got to stay with Bijan. You can't ever assume the play is dead or affected. He can get the play back on track because of his balance and redirection.
Again, this doesn't really. I guess this is structural weakness. Like this is good play call, right?
Yeah. So you gotta, but Baker needs to be absolutely flying to get front side.
Yeah, he cannot get backside on that. Like
he works through him, and like, what is he doing? Like, what does he think he's doing? Is my question.
Like he ends up in the way of Murphy, who's pursuing.
He's got to absolutely fly, and ideally he'd make because like you said, it is a scheme beater. Ideally, he'd be making the tackle like at the 10 or the 9, maybe contact him at the 10 or the 9 and get dragged a little bit.
Right.
But instead it goes to the 3-yard line? No, it doesn't. But
this
still,
is the type of runs though that like McDonald was giving up in Baltimore a bit.
Yeah. something where I'm eager to see Ernest Jones in the same position, right?
Right. I mean, this is poor. This is just trying to make a play at the
Yeah.
5 yard
So
line. This is
so
really poor.
they're ball fitting. Dodson is playing A to backside C, I think. But he doesn't he works all the way back outside of Hall, and he's like in the D gap. So he's abandoned both of his primary gaps, and he's playing something different altogether.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing here.
Like you said, maybe just frustrated wanting to make the play.
Yeah. Not good. That's another example of their too high fits just not being there. But there's stuff that I've seen Jones do very well. I just hope that you need your teammate to do it well too. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it.
This is another really tough one. So this was one of those plays where I have absolutely no idea what Dodson is doing. You're the front side backer. You're playing.
The alignments are so bad here. What the hell?
So they're outgapped, right? It's too high.
Are they? Yeah. So it would be B to A to C.
Yep. And Devin is kind of like your extra force defender on receiver if he gets involved in the blocking for real. And what does Dodson do? He doesn't. He just shoots the A gap. Like it's baffling. Like you're playing fast when you have to play slow and patient. And if you're going to play fast, it would make more sense to play fast to the B gap if you're going to do it at all. Like right now, his angle of departure. Look at the zone scheme. It's a wide zone scheme, outside zone actually, or wide zone. His aiming point is the tackle. Like, does he think he's going to hit the A gap and then work underneath the guard and tackle Algier? Like, it makes zero sense. So you've just created a crease, and then also you've got Derek Hall again, kind of. I mean, he's getting reached, but
yeah, he got reached.
It's the edges. It's the edges not playing this great, and the D line not helping, but then the linebackers making it 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
Just strange cohesion. Like, again, like, look, Derek Hall's kind of not manhandling him, but he still has like blocker control, but it's just the deliberate choice to try to cut off the back path, and they're not able to. I just don't know why you wouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, in my notes I put, why does Dodson fly downhill into the A gap? Has to be B to A gap. No. Linebacker alignments make no sense. So tight together. Horrid run.
You almost wonder, does Dodson think the safety is spinning down and he's the A gap player?
Look, the way he looks at this receiver, it's like he thinks Spoon is suddenly going to play in the B. Like, does he forget that this guy's here?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's very odd.
But like, it would be funny because how we saw them do it last year when it worked, because there was a period where it did work and when it didn't. There would be some sense to just letting Devin fold into the B gap and let Derek Hall play a very conservative force player, edge player. And you might be okay, but yeah, I don't
know. We got two more bad stuff, and then we'll get to the good things, which are mainly great D-line play, but there's some cool stuff as well. So this is... So in the game, one way they adapted was they went from being in under like type looks where you've got the 3-tech away from the tight end to the 3-tech back to the tight end side and playing like an over look. So there's the tight end, there's our 3-tech, and even if the tight end lined up here and shifted his alignment pre-snap, they'd reset the 3 technique. Very common stuff, but that was like a change from how they opened the game. This is Griff letting the nickel fold into the B, which maybe is what Dodson thought was going to happen in the previous example, but But again, it's weird to me. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm. So he does a good job to get the proper leverage. Then you've just got Draymond overrunning it, right?
Yeah. That's a hold.
And then, is it okay? But then the corner needs to replace.
Yeah. So
the corner needs to scrape down and essentially be an outside linebacker mentality.
Yeah, the corner does Pritchett does an okay job to start with, but when he sees that, he needs to be eyes in the backfield and going.
Yep.
And he's just a tick slow and then misses the tackle.
And so the receiver insert on the backside of zone and the front side of duo is something that McVay does a lot of.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Robinson of that tree, of course.
Right. That branch of that whole
shenanigans.
Dastardly family. Yeah, the Shanahan anigans.
Yeah, very good.
So the corner is just not being a football player right now, right? And that's got to be like a emphasis thing, like understanding, like, okay, it's the formation. Here's the menu of things that could happen. What do I need to be? What do I need to do? They're just not juiced up. Like, they're not clear. They're on their heels mentally. The only player in the back seven that is consistently on it, there's really two in terms of knowing what they need to do, is probably Devin and Julian. And then the execution is then like a separate conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the only two guys that are consistently like, okay, they're locked in for real the whole season has been Devin and Julian, I think.
Yeah. So this is another rough rep. It's two guys in the same gap. It's an incredible run from Robinson. But we're gapped out here, so we should be A gap, B gap. Love is either the force or the C, which we need to get on the same page about. And then Spoon, number 2, takes me to my run fit. So whatever he does, I need to fit off if he blocks. So good job front side here. Really good job front side. Maybe too good a job, but that's a pretty good picture. Like, if that's a gap, we're here. We're forcing a cutback. On the back side, it's a bit more questionable. So Hankins gets reached, which is not ideal, but he is running sideways. It's not great. They'd like a lot more knockback here. I think he's playing hurt or something.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't too good this game. We also get reached here, which isn't great, but it doesn't really matter because we've got such good here that to really have to cut back like this, you need to do it like this, right? You can't really go here. That's kind of denied. Like, you see. Except this is, this is poor. And again, it's from Baker. What is that?
I mean, he's trying so hard to stay front side in the B gap, right, on the right tackle. But what the issue here is that he shuts the play down.
Yeah, he just stops.
He sees that situation. He thinks the play's over. What frustrates me the most about this, though, is that Draymond Jones gets reached by Kyle Pitts.
Yep.
He just gets reached, and then Love's backside, squeezing it down is not great. It's not aggressive enough. And
you get two guys in the same gap. Look where the run guys hits here, okay? So just watch Jones, Love, and Kyle Pitts. Love really, like, whenever there's an end here, you're thinking when he's lined up to the inside of the tight end, C gap, I'm the force, backside pursuit type player. But if he were to get reached, like happens here, I have to make him right. I have to play off him.
Right.
So remember that gap between these guys?
Mm-hmm.
There's Draymond Jones, and Love's out the picture. So you know it. And the best backs can do it, like Bijan. He's got such stop-start quickness. We've got a problem now. Where's our player making him right?
Yeah. Honestly, though, I think this is the issue, though. Even though like it's good execution from Robertson, Harris, and Devin to like finally cut off the back path, it's too much depth, and I feel like you want to be on the same level with the
Yeah,
rest of the D line
you're not
against the
playing
guy.
together.
That's too much. It's too much.
Yeah,
Like,
look at. And you could say it's too little here. It's
yeah,
sort of a combination.
right.
But
They need to
they're
play
playing
right.
like different modes.
Right. And so is that Murphy just gets reached, man.
Yeah, it's a bad rep from Murphy.
If Murphy plays that better, everything else kind of because he gets reached, Hankins tries to. Yeah, I think this is so when Leonard said they were being ran too wide.
Yeah,
This is
that's a play that'd be talked about. Yeah. And that's a missed tackle from Kobe Bryant, by the way, which is a tough missed tackle, but he missed tackles in this game, which is a concern. Okay, let's look at like some of the cool run defense stuff. So first of all, this is like D-line play, which was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just extraordinary from Leonard Williams, and it kind of speaks to the point of the second level is not fixed here. Like, there's not a magic thing that happened on the second level. Like, there's some, I guess they play okay here, but it's not a great rep from Hankins. Like, you can see if we got more displacement on Leonard Williams, that's hitting. Hankins gets reached. And because he's playing a 2-eye, the center has a free release up to the backer. So the A-gap is a problem. But Leonard Williams is just so incredibly talented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his gap on this play is the B-gap. But he is able to pull the guard off him and win into the A-gap with the running back's cut and make the tackle.
Right. What is going on backside though with the B gap? I mean, that's with like Wallace's alignment. Wallace is the B gap player. He's on the half, man. How is I know Hankins is playing a 2-eye that makes it easier to work back to 2 gap.
It's ridiculous.
But how is this the 1-high structure? Like, he's the flat player. You don't want him to get out leveraged if you get motion to the field on play action, right?
Yeah, but for what? Like, there's 3 over this side.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a 1 here. Like, can we not skinny up a bit? This is our 2.
Well, I mean, the flat players being the B-gap player to the field has been a problem, like, league-wide against pistol and under center stuff.
Right. But
still, man, do you need to be all the way on the hash? I mean, how is it possible to leverage that? So if Derek Hall didn't do such a good job here squeezing this down with Leonard Williams, I mean, look at that alley. Like look at that alley off the hip of Hankins, you know? So it's just,
Bijan must have been so bummed that this happened.
It's hero play that makes it work. Like with Dodson on that one play earlier where he makes a really good play. Your 1-high defense relying on hero play, man, like, it doesn't feel sustainable. Like, this game shows that it wasn't. So
yeah, I don't want to be like a massive doomer, because it's also really cool that Seattle has these hero type plays and hero type players who can do this. Williams was doing a bit of it last year, but I feel the way, like, again, the D-line here is just ridiculous. The second level is a joke. I don't know what... it's a bit better from Dodson. And I guess Baker's trying to play off Williams.
This is Williams, like, taking over, frankly.
But, yeah, because we're we're gapped out. We're out gapped. So it's two high safeties. So this is again A to C, B to A, match stack trap, fullback. And a good anticipation from Williams. And we saw him previously when he knew he was getting the combo. We saw him playing into this guy almost like a 4-iron, leaving the guard to go get the backer. This is him changing up for the second half of the game and knocking back the guard, playing really thick to the guard and able to pop and split through the double, which that's not what you want to see as running back. That then enables Draymond Jones, who set a really solid edge here on Pitts. They've tried to leave him on a tight end, and he's shown that as being disrespectful. And he then is able to bubble out and shed the block and make the tackle. So this is the type of knockback Leonard Williams is talking about playing vertical. Yeah. But it's also a vertical type run, like it's duo from the gun, right?
Right.
Baker here, I mean, if this would have been a problem, I think.
Right. So that's the ball fitting mechanic just not being viable at all.
You have the linebackers in the same gap, and there should be a guy here.
So the second half run defense improvement really came down to the D line just tightening up and playing aggressively, but aggressive in the right way to control for the ball spitting out.
And again, Adam Dirty, and I should probably remember who the actual D-line coach is now, but they are doing a good job. Here, I don't think this is a called stunt. I think this is just Williams saying, I'm not running sideways, I'm just going to destroy crap. But it's actually an example of how stunting your 3 technique when you are playing with the 2 high safeties and you're playing out gapped is a really good measure, because what it does is, rather than telling this guy, I have to play A to C, it tells him this gap is going to kind of get run through. So really, I'm just playing off here. And you'll see essentially how it basically becomes I need to fit into the C gap. It clarifies things. It spills the ball off the table quicker, which can be a bad thing, but it can also clear things up for this linebacker. So just watch the impact of Williams playing vertical. He has basically reached, but penetration from the 3 technique spot where you're splitting a double, well, suddenly this guy's occupied. I know this backer should be getting here, which we'll get to that. I now have only this gap to worry about because we've got doubles here, rather than having to solo play in here and here. It's spilling the ball.
And good edge set from Hall to kind of to create an alley for the back into a clean linebacker, like you're saying.
Force him to change direction.
That might actually be called or something game plan, and the 3 technique has discretion, maybe.
I hope so.
I want to believe that they have quote unquote tools within their structure.
We did see that earlier play but the 3 tech played super vertical like that.
Because it's kind of a way to steal gaps.
That's exactly. It kills the cutback of outside, the bang read of outside zone, right? If this is bounce, this is bang, this is bend. It kills that middle bang read because it gets a guy right there.
Right.
And it makes this guy very clear to go here. And that should be a hold, obviously. But it all happens so fast. That being said, I don't know. I know officials are a hot topic. What is this guy looking at? Probably the combo on Derek Hall. I don't know what Dodson's doing here, Griff. But I don't know, man.
Well, Dodson is the...
Well, he should be A to B. He should be here.
Especially with Reed getting slowly reached.
And comboed.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. But Leonard Williams is probably the most important player on the defense. I think the guys around him allow him to obviously really do stuff. We saw with Byron Murphy out, it hurt them. This Byron Murphy play brings us on to like the point of like some good scheme stuff that happened in this game for the run defense, which is more of an encouraging sign, I think, moving forward for McDonald. So this is a creation of basically a bare front. So what we're going to have happen is, so here's our B-gap bubble. We've seen how the linebackers were kind of not really playing down into the gaps. So what we can do is we just blitz this guy, Jerome Baker, into the B-gap bubble, and we basically have him as a 3 technique, almost, and then the nose, the 3 tech, the edge, and it clarifies things also for Dodson off the ball because, one, no one's going to climb onto him because we're covering all 5 linemen, and 2, he just has the A gap to worry about, so it's dead central, basically, and then the running back. And we can play kind of gapped out like that. So this is a crazy play from Murphy to swim over the center, get power just through that double and split the double and take the play over. It's, again, they've got an incredible option of defensive linemen.
Yeah, that's an incredible play from Murphy. I don't think Bijan ever would have expected Murphy to be able to close space like he did. Like it's enough damage already to plug the A gap like that, but then to actually split those guys and then close in on him, a guy like Robinson, is pretty impressive.
Yeah. What's interesting about this is if they play too high and do it.
Yeah. Yep. And we want to see more of that, like schemed action, playing fast, scheming fast, to try to use like speed to your advantage to like undercut the advantage the offense has when you're down a gap in the math.
Right. So
I like this a lot because they're presenting too high, but they're actually playing man coverage, which allows you to play gapped out. So they don't have to walk out one of the linebackers, right?
Right. And just look how it clarifies things. So now we're back into our bare front look. We've blitzed the backer. We've got an edge. Look how clean Dodson is. Everyone's covered up at the line. We're getting knocked back. They're not getting as wide. We're gapped out. And we're flying to the football.
And good job from Dodson to play lateral. So you've got 5 blockers forming 6 gaps. You got 6 defenders. And what I like about the call is it's McDonald presenting his kind of normal defense, but then step something else off of that structure in a way that is really effective. Like the offense is going to think some too high shell, right? With maybe nickel travel rules, but really it's just man coverage, right, spinning into 1 high. So it's a cool way to keep the backers in the box so that they can match gap for defender.
Absolutely. Now, they did do some. Those 2 plays were second half clips, and they were good. Like, I think good enough as well to come up with some effective run defense that dissuaded Atlanta from doing it, and then obviously the game got out of hand. They were doing some good stuff early as well. So this is very new. Please, if someone's seen McDonald do this, someone out there, surely, we'll be looking for this. But a 5-down presentation look, right? A nickel, right? So there's our nickel. I haven't seen McDonald run this type of thing. So it depends how they set their front. So generally a nickel, obviously the nickel is the important player, but this could be an over front. So there's a 3 technique, there's an edge, there's a nose, there's a reduced linebacker, and there's a will, and it could be set to the field side. It could be set to the receiving strength, or it could be saying to the tight end. It's like an under, isn't it? Because here's our 3, here's our wide edge, Here's our nose. Here's our 4-eye, and here's our like Sam, even though he's a Will. But anyway, I would call this an under, but out of nickel. But it's cool. It's really cool. And what they do here is it had me really excited. So this is a corner and this is a safety. We don't want to ask them to be in the run fit. Okay. We want to play cover 2 out here. So because there's a 3 technique here, we don't need this spoon to be in the immediate run fit either. The bubble of the front is on these people's side. So if I just zoom through quickly, you can see Dodson's in the A. Here's our 4-eye. Here's our nose. Here's our edge, which is Jerome Baker, the Will. He's got the force. If he gets cracked, this is the number 1 of this guy, so we need to replace him. But who has this big bubble here, the C gap? You could ask the safety to do it. That's viable. We've seen Seattle do that in the past. Or if you're really determined to say, hey, play your pass key first, play your pass key first, then we can do some trickery. So what they do here is super cool. This is, I believe they call it a Tom game, but it's a tackle stunt, which cancels these gaps and basically fills the C gap. This is an awesome run fit. So you see he's comboed initially, Dodson's showing front side, running back's thinking, I'm going to cut it back into the C gap bubble with the safety stepping off, this guy playing his coverage first, this guy setting the edge. Spoon not in the immediate run fit.
Yeah.
And this goes for what, 5 yards? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is an example of a movement up front where you are playing, you're really playing for coverage, but you're scheming up front to make the run defense work for the coverage you're wanting to run. Hankins is a tad slow, but I believe that Griff is a called game between the two of them.
I agree.
Chemistry's just off.
Now imagine like if Hankins is Murphy here, Murphy works over quickly, kills that, nukes it, right? So I really like finally kind of seeing, even though the run defense this week, they gave up like 5.4 yards per carry to the running backs this game, to kind of see like the built-in multiplicity finally within their structure kind of show up. Even if the results are somewhat mixed, hopefully we see more of that. That kind of becomes their MO. That gives their too high stuff a lot of life, because giving up 7 yards per carry and too high run defense is abysmal. That's what they've been giving up on the season, is like 6.8 right now after this game. Again, out of too high, like even the one high number is high. It's like 4.3 or something, which is high for, one high run defense. You want it to be more like 3.5, which is good. But I think this stuff, like giving up 5 yards here, that's 4 or 5 yards. You want your too high run defense to be giving up around 5 yards per carry. That's a good number for too high. So hopefully, just as the D-line keeps getting more and more healthy, and the addition of Jones and then McDonald meeting the talent in the middle with a little bit of scheme to help them out. And again, you do these things that you can stay in the coverage like you were talking about, right? They only gave up one completion of over 20 air yards. So that's kind of, you can kind of see,
concept.
Right. You can kind of see the path to the proof of concept, like you said, of what they're going for. You can become more of a balanced defense on first down and second and medium, second and short-ish, that allows you to, finally become a 3-dimensional defense. So there's definitely a path here where they improve substantially.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Charms says, what happens if they get too predictable doing this? Charms, I think the point of this is them not being predictable. This is them being a bit more varied, kind of evolving to their personnel, right? Like they have all these talented interior defensive linemen who, if you play 3 at once, that's cool, even though that was Maffei playing one of the interior spots. But also, I think they had been too predictable in sitting in the same front structures. I mean, I thought at first McDonald only had this in to like do pressures where if you have 5 guys down at the line, you're going to get big on big man pass pro. But actually, and it's weird to me that, well, basically they did this in the second half with those 2 B-gap blitzes of the linebacker to get into this look. But this is something where you see the exact point of running a bear front out of nickel, which again, if someone's seen Mike McDonald do this on early downs in previous stints, please let me know. This is a 1st and 10, right? They're a bit clunky getting into it. But here we have, and by the way, this is very much how the Pete Carroll stuff did it. And why I mentioned that is not to get caught up in the past, but Adam Dirty comes from that system, and I do believe there's some input here from what he worked for him in Dallas. Also, that previous run fit we saw with that movement going on, that is similar to how Dallas kind of cheated the math last year. So just bear that in mind. So here we have a 4-eye to the tight end side, nose tackle head up, 3 technique, edge setter. We have our A-gap backer. We have a man coverage here. We have Bryant coming down to the tight end and the C-gap. This is another reason that Kobe Bryant can... it's another play he'll want to look back on and want to improve on. Yeah, Griff, I see your chat. I agree. This is the proof of the concept, but why we need to tackle. Because... and play a bit more certain. But you can see how this is a viable approach, although it goes for too many yards. And Draymond Jones has a tough time against the combo. Mm-hmm. But also, with guys being one-on-one, if you take your shot and you can get into the backfield, you will actually end up making the tackle.
Mm-hmm. Good fill from Kobe.
Yeah, I'd have liked him, because if you look at the back end, they're holding their disguise. I'd have liked him to come down quicker, because they're in man, right? If he'd been here, I think that's like TFL.
Right.
But it is a good fill, and he just needs to make the tackle, get some rap going. All right.
So, Bills predictions?
No, last play, Griff.
Oh, okay.
So look, this is like the under deal again, which becomes bear, and then this is again, watch how clean Tyrell Dodson is and how the D-line profit from keeping guys off them and being one-on-one. Anyway, so some variety. Right, Buffalo Bills, Griff. So I still don't really understand. Monjombo, I am a bit stupid. I don't really get what the differential thing means on the predictions.
I don't really get it either, but I'm not going to say that so that I can maintain the guise of always having an understanding.
Right. So the significant injury news, Griff, is it looks like Reek Woolen is going to be back, which is big, obviously. And DK Metcalf is doubtful. So how that influences everything, I don't know. Obviously, this is more important, the score by spread.
Well, see, I was thinking differential is more important.
Oh, right. That's interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks are going to lose this game. I think they're, for a lot of the reasons we've spoke about, I think Ernest Jones will need to get up to speed. I think they're going to lose this game 27 to 20. And also, it could be a bad weather game. I know it's meant to be really windy.
Yeah, the Bills are a really good duo team. They're going to want to stay in too high because of Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman and Josh Allen just out of, as a rule. So So I think some runs will pop on them. I would like to just see better structure, like better process,
Yep.
at least. It would be cool if they spent a lot of time scheming it up front, like we saw this time, like just building the whole boat out of that, especially for this week, this game plan.
Yep.
I think the offense will do well, though. The Bills defense is trying to find itself right now.
No Terrell Bernard.
Yep, no Trill Bernard is tough. That guy is good. He is like
the actual good Bills linebacker.
Terrell Bernard is like Fred Warner light, like Diet Fred Warner. So Diet Fred Warner is still really freaking good.
Unlike Diet Soda.
Unlike Diet Soda. I think Geno can go blow for blow with Allen. I think it's going to be another high 20s, low 30s game. Not another one, but one like that. Another prediction of a high 20s, low 30. I think the Seahawks will lose by 5 points. So I'm going to go
what prediction?
33-28 Bills.
Wow. That's a high scorer. I might be too high on Seattle's defense. I just think it's like a game which is never close, but teams sputter. All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry we didn't get to offense tape. Run, you know us. We like our run defense. Even if it's bad, we like our run defense. What did you expect? But I'm intrigued. DK, if he doesn't play, that team, it's obviously not going to be good, but it might force the offense to find a bit more formational balance and do some clever stuff and test out the rest of their receivers. All right, thank you so much. Reflect the Sun. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your donations tonight. Again. Thank you for your questions. Please do follow Griffin on Twitter at CMikeSpinMove. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. Follow the pod at Seattle Overload. We'll be live after the game on Sunday. Hopefully, we're wrong with our predictions. We love you all. Griff, closing wisdom?
No.